We talked to guys about staying hydrated. Gave them a couple extra breaks between periods. That's really about it, honestly. Yeah. We didn't put the pads on until halfway through practice. Yeah.
You were saying you really want to get too much into it until you saw how the game went, what injuries were. But playing now that you've had a chance to review and look ahead, the second, a back-to-back against the seniors.
What's the question?
How does that affect things practice-wise, scheme-wise? They've seen some stuff. You've seen some stuff.
I think you plan ahead. I mentioned I thought to you maybe last week that we put a little extra in for game one so that the stuff that you don't use is carry over for the second game. From a coaching perspective, it's a little bit easier in terms of obviously the players just know what they're seeing. You know, when you review the game tape, you're also reviewing your next upcoming opponent. So from that standpoint, it's easier. Obviously, they've seen what we have, we've seen what they have, and you got to find some new wrinkles to keep them off balance.
I'm talking to a couple guys on Ticats today, panel former players. They felt that if you can come out with that kind of start, you can help silence the crowd. But you subscribe to that kind of
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's always great to start fast, especially on the road in a loud environment. I'm sure they'll probably be sold out. You know, they got a lot to be excited about over there. Starting fast is always a good thing. I thought it helped us kind of get going as a team, even at home. So we're always looking for that fast start.
Injury-wise, I saw Hendricks said, where does he sit, or you don't know until later?
I think we're still waiting, I think, on some imaging.
Okay. The fact that you looks like, depending, it's a long week yet, that you can start the same defensive backfield second game in a row. How helpful will that be?
Yeah, that's always a good thing when you can get some continuity in any group, offensive line, receivers, quarterback, whatever. Those guys the odds are they'll grow together and get better and communicate better, and you'll need that, right? Being on the road with the noise, there'll need to be better communication going forward.
Last one for me, I'll turn it over to Scott after that. But we're going to be talking to Nick Usher. You've had 5 sacks in the 2 games, arguably 3 of them forced by him to the last game and the one that Sales had in the first game. Can you talk a little bit about him, what he brings?
He was in Edmonton before I got there, and so I knew of him then. I was kind of out of the league when he was, at his quote unquote heyday. He looks to me like a guy that came off a serious injury and is just now getting back. And I think he's done a great job. He's got high energy. He's physical. He plays fast. Happy to have him. I mean, I thought it was a great pickup by Ed and his staff.
And I realize you probably can't speak to this part of it, but well, maybe you can. That's why I'm asking. But are you aware of sometimes of guys that feel like they have something to prove in this, from a coaching level? Like he might have that.
I hope so. I mean, I hope everybody feels like they have something to prove. We talk about that a lot. That's the great ones. The type A's, the Jordans, the Kobes. Those guys, even when they're at their best, they want to be the greatest ever. And it's something that we look for in a player. We look for it in coaches too. It's just how do you put a number on competitiveness? And the more guys that you have that are like that are like a Casey Sales, like a James Butler, the more wins you're going to get. So we're always hunting those guys for sure.
Go ahead. You brought back Cameron McDonald, one of the tight ends that you have here. So, I mean, I realize it's a practice roster, but I assume that's for the depth of your commitment to tight end.
Yeah, before he got hurt, which was pretty early, he was having a nice camp. So there's some talent there, and we're gonna find out where he's at and see what happens.
Last week before the game, I was asking about how you scout a team when they've only had a game, and you were saying, well, we see what the coordinators have done. When you now get to see it, did you see anything different, or did you see pretty much what you had thought you were going to see from them?
That's a good question. They changed a few things up later in the game, but I think Corey does a great job with their defense. I think the scheme is excellent. I think they apply pressure to you that probably them and still probably Toronto are going to pressure more than anybody in the league. So I think he has faith in what his base defense is, and I think you're going to get that most of the time. But he also has the ability to kind of dig into his pocket and pull out some wrinkles to keep you off balance. So I thought that was pretty good.
And based on that, how much, I know you say you prepared for kind of 2 games, but how much do you change up? Based on what you saw, do you have to do a ton, or do you look back and go, no, pretty much what we had, I'm going with?
Well, I mean, if that was the case, I wouldn't probably admit to it. So
we're going to be talking to Tim in just a minute. You talked after the game about Tim a little bit. I know Bo talked about it. the time after that, have you said anything to him, or do you just trust and believe that he's done what he's done before, he's going to do it again, so I can leave it alone?
I spoke to him, but not about dropping passes. I just wanted to see how he was doing. You have to remember, from my standpoint, when I came in here, Tim was far and away our best receiver and tore it up for 8 games. So that has not left my mind. And I know what he is and who he can be. And, he's in a little bit of a slump maybe, but we're going to let him get out of that. I can promise you.
Last one for me. And obviously I've never been a Tim White, so I don't know, but I would think when you are a great player that those kind of moments are probably harder on you than if you're not a great player and you have those kind of moments.
Yeah, you'll have to ask him. I wasn't a great player either.